Food is at the heart of our existence. It is a source of joy for families and communities. It impacts personal health and the health of our environment. It enriches our culture and is crucial to a vibrant economy. Food is life. And for 75 years, the Culinary Institute has been the center of the food universe, educating leaders who would go on to transform the industry as we know it today.
Why have we neglected the teaching of these cooking skills to men from other nations?
Well, there are a number of reasons. The fact that Americans do not look upon cooking in quantity in the kitchens of this country as a prestige job the way they do in Europe.
In the mid-1940s, the New Haven Restaurant Association faced a shortage of cooks due to World War II enlistment. To solve this, two of its members, Richard Dargan and Charles Ervetti, envisioned a local vocational cooking school for returning veterans. The two men turned to Frances Roth, New Haven's assistant district attorney, known for her persistence and accomplishment, to make it happen. Mrs. Roth, along with her friend, community leader Catherine Angel, would become the co-founders of a small storefront cooking school, the New Haven Restaurant Institute, in 1946.
In terms of changing the profession, I think the Institute has historically had a big role to play in that. The profession has developed a lot.
It took it really away from this sort of beetle belly, sloppy, cookie image to someone who had a lot of respect for their profession.
As the college continued to grow, ultimately changing its name to the Culinary Institute of America in 1951, the food profession grew right along with it. The food world was coming of age in the U.S., and the perception of chefs changed dramatically.
To cook well, to serve others is a good and noble thing. We're essentially, we're in the business of nurturing.
With the country embracing food and chefs like never before, the CIA established a new culinary center in the Hudson Valley at St. Andrew-on-Hudson, a former Jesuit seminary in Hyde Park, New York, and opened its doors in 1972.
The CIA is our premier culinary school in America. People come from all over the world to go to school here.
You have legends here. You have your instructors here. They know what I'm talking about. The food world has never been at this place before. They evolve with the times.
As the school started teaching Americans and Americans got interested in food, then when we went into these restaurants, we were professionals, and the school taught us how to be professionals and why we needed to be professionals.
The culinary adopted the certificate baking program, which really allowed someone to focus solely on baking and pastry.
The stage was set for American cuisine to explode onto the national and global scene.
There was a new scene emerging, and I think that though some people say that this was an American food evolution, I really prefer to think of it as a revolution.
Fine dining in the U.S. was really this kind of pretend French food. What really defined the whole American cuisine movement was this shift from trying to be something that we're never going to be, throwing off the shackles and kind of recreating fine dining in America with the emphasis on great ingredients.
The 80s were a real interesting time in cooking in America. You had different chefs in different parts of the country started their own thing.
This new generation of chefs in America, some like Wolfgang Puck, who came from Europe. Others were trained at the CIA, like Dean Fearing or Jasper White.
You had Alice Waters with Chez Panisse out in Berkeley, California, really celebrating the farm-to-table local ingredient. Lydia Shire up in Boston, really celebrating New England cuisines.
And some completely representative of the region they were born in, like Paul Prudhomme, basically looked to Europe and said, why are these folks the masters of the culinary universe? We have great products, we have great tradition, we have great history, we have all these influences, and we can do it.
This feeling that we were all having as young American chefs, that it was our time.
We were gonna have our own cuisine, and it was like, the French were resisting us all over the place. No, because American cuisine is here to stay.
I probably consider myself the quintessential American chef.
With the growing prominence of American cuisine and the food industry, the CIA became the new education hub for people seeking careers in this growing profession. Food has become a big part of pop culture the last 2 decades, and many CIA graduates were the early pioneers of the Food Network.
I watched Julia Child, I watched Ann Can Cook, I watched Graham Kerr. The idea of seeing chefs on TV was always in the back of my mind, but it was never a goal because it wasn't something that you did when you went to school at that time.
I loved every minute of being a student there.
I think it brought it into everyone's living room, and it helped educate the public about different kinds of cuisine.
Foodies across the country have grown ever hungrier for recipes and cooking knowledge. And these days, there's no shortage of food content everywhere, from YouTube to Netflix, Instagram to TikTok.
Our guests are now sharing the experience in real time with every friend that they've ever had via social media. And today, if someone doesn't take a picture of their food, you're kind of hurt that maybe the food wasn't good enough.
I think that when you look at cooking as an art, then you have to understand that it's one of the few arts that you can literally involve all the senses.
Sometimes when you taste a dish, you're like, wow, this is really good. And then it's so good that you gotta keep eating it. That's what I want people to experience at my restaurant.
Caring about every single taco, caring about every single guest, staying true to that honesty, never wavering. That is probably the most important thing.
And you have to be passionate about it. You have to have a little bit of crazy in you to actually be in this industry. You need to love it. And that's when you put out your best. You know, I think the world is becoming so small. The cuisines from all over the world come to America. And that is what, to me, and to a lot of people, what America is really about. It is a melting pot.
And the best way of getting to know it is by immersing yourself. Now I think you need to know a little bit more about culture. Knowing the recipe might not be enough, because if you don't have the knowledge of the culture, you're not able to understand why those decisions were made.
As we look at this world, we've seen that this is a world that begins to show up on the plate in so many ways as we start to look at things.
When I first come here many years ago, 30 years ago, they have only Oriental cuisines. That's it. Now we add India, Korean cuisine, Thai cuisine, and Vietnamese cuisine.
With U.S. chefs introducing countless new flavors into the world, America's diverse food and beverage scene was firmly in the global spotlight. The CIA, too, expanded beyond its New York home to 2 locations in California's Napa Valley, to San Antonio, Texas, and to Singapore at the gateway of Asia.
I think in order to stay relevant in the culinary world, the CIA should be leading the charge in terms of hosting these types of conversations.
Right? We're at a critical juncture now where everyone is interested in food, and not everyone has the same accessibility to the food.
On that, it goes into sustainability now, you know, the slow food movement, organic, supporting local artisan farmers.
It's not just about what goes on in that stove behind me or in that oven. It becomes so important to the young chef, because they have the opportunity to change the food system in better ways, to make it more sustainable, for the health of the planet.
Education and communication are always the answers to almost every human problem.
So it makes you a better leader. Understanding food and beverage and understanding how to orchestrate that show is very, very important.
The Culinary Institute of America is the pinnacle of culinary education in the world.
I feel like we definitely have the greatest reputation when it comes to producing culinary professionals, and I'm glad that I get to be in that number. I'm gonna cry.
Every single memory I have of anything is around the table, basically. You have breakfast, you have lunch, you have fights, you have family, you have fall in love, you fall out of love, you know, you argue, but it's all around food. That's life.
Food is life.